So in doing breath meditation and doing this anapanasati over these weeks, from one perspective we're going through it slowly, from another perspective we're going through it quickly. And I'm sure there's people who feel it both ways, one way or the other. And from the slow perspective, we're putting together slowly, piece by piece, the alphabet for breath meditation, all the little basic elements, and learning. Once you learn the alphabet, that gives you access to a tremendous wealth of knowledge, potential for communication, writing, reading, understanding, all kinds of things that come alive with reading and writing. And so in the same way, we were learning kind of the basic elements, the alphabet in the sense of all the little things to notice and be aware of as we're breathing. And then slowly over time, these begin to be put together. And after a while, it's, you can read a book pretty quickly or easily maybe. And so after a while, we get a sense of all the little elements, how they come together and create the grammar of meditation, and create the sentences of spirituality and freedom. So we're going to continue, and with this our education in the elements of breathing in meditation. So to assume a meditation posture, and taking a few moments to settle into your posture, to maybe sway a little bit, front and back, forward, sideways, maybe twisting a little bit, maybe making small adjustments so that the weight and the way your body is organized can be one that is settling for you, that allows certain things to settle. And so that taking your meditation posture is a little bit of a homecoming, or a little coming to a place where you have some modicum of contentment. And so taking the time to feel that, not to be in a hurry in meditation and overlook the basic establishing your posture. And in doing so, establish a mindfulness of the body. Establish a degree of embodiment in this posture. And then to close your eyes and take a few moments to feel this body. Sense what's happening in the body. All the different kinds of sensations that come alive in the body. And don't focus on any particular one. Just let your attention roam around, taking it all in. And if in doing so there are still some small adjustments in the posture, it can still be a good thing to do. And then ever so gently, ever so lightly, bring your awareness close to your breathing. not headlong into it, just kind of on the edges of it maybe. And begin feeling the experience of the body breathing. Maybe coming to the breathing through your back and from there towards the front, lightly, slowly. And taking a few moments to familiarize yourself with how the body's breathing. And letting your attention quietly roam around the various places in the body where the movements and the pressures and the release of pressures appear that are associated with breathing. And perhaps as you exhale, there's some places in your body that the breathing can relax more. A release as you exhale. Perhaps as you exhale, there can be a softening in the breathing body. And feeling more fully the experience of inhaling. And ever so gently, as you inhale, inhale more fully, longer inhale. So as you inhale, the chest expands more fully. Maybe there's a lifting of the shoulders. And not breathing in so fully or deeply that you get winded. In a relaxed way. And as you inhale, see if you can notice if there's any upwelling feelings, a way in which energy in your body or a lightening feeling of lightness, a feeling of movement that lifts upward through your torso and up towards the head. A little movement that is energizing. Perhaps as you breathe in a little deeper than usual, there's a movement towards greater clarity, especially if you let the thinking mind get quiet as you feel it more fully. And energetics that moves in the direction of waking you up, awakening, a clarity and a lightness. And if you do this deeper breathing, just very slightly, is there anything that feels pleasant in doing so? In the upwelling, is there an upwelling that brings pleasure or pleasantness? Maybe even delight. Some people might feel things get brighter, a little bit more light in the mind. And letting your breathing return to normal. But still, on the inhale, is there any upwelling feelings that occur in your body? Ever so slightly, a movement which lifts and straightens the spine. And then as you exhale, ride the exhale with a very simple, quiet ah, to feel the releasing, the relaxing. And then on the inhale, to receive and allow the upwelling of energy, of brightness, lightness. Receive it with the receiving of the in-breath. A releasing as you exhale that releases the edges of your body, releases tension in your body. Where you release into a tingling vibration, warmth, softness in the body perhaps. And then receiving, allowing the upwelling of in-breath, of the inhale. The exhale tends to be more for relaxation. The inhale more for energizing or brightening. And as you're breathing, is there any feelings of pleasure, pleasantness, joy that comes along with the body breathing in, the body exhaling? Allow that pleasure to flow through your body as you inhale. Maybe flowing in an upward direction or outwards. Maybe it flows downwards as you exhale. Receive and let it spread through the inhale. And ride on it as it in the exhale. Let it flow. It could be very subtle tingling and warmth, feeling of goodness, pleasure. And as you breathe with a quiet mind, letting your thinking become very quiet and sensitive, so you're sensitive to feeling the pleasure that might be here with your in-breaths and out-breaths, breathing in and breathing out. There may also be unpleasant sensations as you're sitting here. Don't ignore that they're there, but don't give them any real attention. Let your attention go with the pleasant sensations of breathing, the pleasant sensations of just sitting here in your body. as if they are big enough to hold what's unpleasant, as if they are a tender caring for what's difficult. And if the mind wanders off in thought, let yourself have a homecoming into what's pleasant, enjoyable, contentful in your body as you breathe. And as we come to the end of a sitting, perhaps with this light touch, a light touch with the breathing, and the breathing as it moves through your body, letting it have a light touch on whatever is tender or difficult in your body. And very tenderly touch it with your breathing. Touch it with your light awareness. Just a light touch of recognition, of accompaniment, so that whatever pleasantness and joy there is, contentment, it shares itself tenderly with what is difficult. What is not so pleasant. And in our capacity to sit here quietly, contentedly, openly, maybe softly, many different ways of you might feel at the end of a meditation. Can you now lightly, tenderly, just lightly touching, opening to the suffering of the world. Just to touch the edges of it. No need to go into the middle of it. Challenges of our people you know and don't know around the world. A gentle, soft touch on the edges of their suffering, arising out of your soft, light awareness, soft, light breathing. So their suffering doesn't disturb you, and you don't disturb them. But you're there to accompany, to recognize, to clearly see. The world suffers. And then perhaps from whatever tenderness you have towards the suffering world, a tenderness that maybe comes from that's seated in a place of meditative contentment, meditative ease or settledness. And allow your compassion and care and goodwill maybe to take the form of wishing well for others, wishing them happiness, freedom from suffering, wishing them health and well-being. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free. And may all beings live together in goodwill. So a couple of words kind of to end this meditation before switching to the talk. Because of the nature of these 16 steps of Anapanasati, there's more to teach as we go along, and so maybe I'll be talking more, guiding more in meditation than usual. And what you might want to do and consider is to, if it works for your life, is to meditate a second time during the day, even if it's just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or another half an hour, and perhaps having a little more practice with what we're doing in this guided meditation, and or build with it, or allow for more of it to kind of percolate and develop, and then it might you might find that it supports you more when you come. So you have back to the guided meditation, and also you might appreciate the time to have more silence to explore this on your own. So continuing on the 16 steps of breathing meditation that the Buddha taught, it does come from a variety of places in the discourses of the Buddha. The most common place is a text called Discourse on Mindfulness of Breathing, Anapanasati Sutta, and it's in what's a collection called the Middle Length Discourses. And there's been a variety of books that are, explaining this or describing this. The descriptions 16 steps are really just like cliff notes, just like brief sentences. And different meditation teachers will have a little different take or explanation of how these work or what they are, and which is appropriate. There's many techniques, and they're like, these are just kind of little placeholders for a whole universe of experience. So we're coming into the 5th and 6th step of Anapanasati, and it's the 5th one says one trains. In other words, one practices. One practices the alphabet to really learn it. One does it over and over again. One trains to trains that as one is breathing in, one experiences joy. As one breathes, one trains that as one breathes out, one experiences joy. And then the sixth one is, as breathing in, one experiences happiness. Breathing out, one experiences happiness. And so this words for joy and happiness, some people will translate, like the famous translator Bhikkhu Bodhi translated as a rapture for joy, and what I translate as happiness, he translates as pleasure. And the difference between these two is that whatever this the joy factor is, or it's something that's a little bit energizing. It's a little bit. It can be quite strong, but it's it's something that's a little bit more like a thrill in the body, a delight. It's a flow of energy or flow of pleasure in the body that is kind of uplifting and delightful and just has a lightening feeling. And then the next one, what I call happiness, he calls pleasure, is when the energetics of joy quiet down, the pleasure of the joy, the happiness of the joy remains. Something more settled, and something has more sense of contentment. Some people get quite attached to the energetics of joy, and sometimes it's this feeling of ecstasy and rapture, and very strong. It can course through our body with cascading waves of joy, and it can be quite intense. And but sooner or later, people get a little tired of the energetics of it, And then the energy, the energetics, the, the upwelling energy of it begins to settle and quiet. And there's kind of a state shift. And in retrospect, we see that the joy has a kind of mental quality, mental energetics of it, that settles. And then we're more settled in the body. And then more of a feeling of contentment in the body, of well-being in the body, tranquility in the body. That for me feels like a very sublime kind of happiness. But because it's more physical, some translators like to translate it as pleasure. And because it doesn't have the mental energy of it as well. And so the operating verb is one experiences. You could just as well translate the Pali language word here as one feels. One really feels what is there. Elsewhere, the Buddha says, when this kind of pleasure or joy begins to surface, one is allowed to feel it in such a way that one allows it to spread through the body. And as I said yesterday, the Buddha said this kind of pleasure or joy is not to be feared, and is not to be kind of dismissed or belittled. It's actually quite a healthy thing to experience it. Some people, when they feel it, find it very healing, and it creates a context in the body and the heart in order to better kind of be present for what is difficult. It's not a denial of what's difficult and painful in our lives or difficult emotions and what's happening in the world around us, but it's easier to be present for it without falling victim of it or being oppressed by it or being, suffering ourselves even more by it or feeling self-pity. But because we have this goodness, we have this joy, happiness, well-being in which to hold the challenges of our lives. So there's something about, this joy, this well-being that comes in this step, it comes a lot from really being starting to be absorbed or really intimate and continuous with the experience of breathing. It also comes when there's more sense of a wholeness. Everything is included. Nothing's being held at bay. And so the earlier steps, the steps of the body, has to do with really feeling the body and relaxing the body. When the body is tense, the body is in a certain way not whole. So we're kind of cut off from parts of it in this kind of way. But as we feel the body and relax the body, there's a feeling of wholeness, of gathering together. And that gathering together and becoming whole is what contributes to the joy arising. It's kind of like we're creating the channels, we're creating the openings for this well-being to be there. That can come when we start becoming really intimate or connected or continuous in the attention. And so the awareness itself gets gathered together to really be in the present moment with the breathing, as opposed to the thoughts jumping around here and there and about what's for dinner and what I'm doing tomorrow and what I did yesterday or something. The mind begins to, the wholeness, the mind also begins to gather around just this experience here. The mind itself now centers itself on the experience of the body just breathing. And this centering itself in the body breathing has the joy or the delight of the problems of our life, the preoccupations, the agitations, the anxieties that are fed by thoughts and perpetuated by thoughts begin to quiet down. And so just that is a relief to have. And then the combination of the mind's intimacy, the awareness's intimacy with the whole experience of breathing in and the wholeness of the body, then it tends to start producing from the inside out a sense of goodness, which is my kind of generic name for a whole class of things, family of things we might feel. Joy, delight, satisfaction, contentment, pleasure, that thrill, wonderful feelings that come. And they come like for no good reason for what's outside in the world. Nothing has to be better in the world, it just comes because of this intimacy and gathering together, this harmonizing of our whole being that can come when we're really present here. So the first 4 steps of Anapanasati, which can take a long time to kind of really do and have a lot to do with really finding ourselves really present here in a whole way, in an embodied way, in an inclusive way. So it's not a narrow, tight little concentration, but rather a centering on everything's included and everything is centered. So the image I have for it is a big bowl that if you take a marble and drop it into this big bowl, it'll go up and down and around. And if you lean into the bowl and push the marble, you can just keep it going. It just keeps spinning forever if you keep pushing it. But if we stop pushing it, slowly, it'll come to center at the bottom of the bowl. And the whole bowl is there, but it's resting at the center. So the same thing with our attention, our thoughts, our awareness, that we keep spinning it, pushing the marbles in our mind with our thoughts, with our involvement, with our interest, with our reactivity to things. And the thinking mind just spins and goes and gets distracted. But as we leave it alone, then everything begins to settle, gather together, and we support it with our practice of intimacy and getting close to breathing. And then with time we find we get centered at the bottom of the bowl, centered on the breathing. And this starts becoming a very pleasant experience and very enjoyable. And the joy factors begin bubbling up within. And the Buddha's description of this is, I think I said it recently, is that of an underwater spring flowing up into a lake. And it just flows up from the inside and spreads out. And so for example, sometimes you can feel that with the inhale. It's almost like there's an underwater spring deep in our torso, right down near the base of our body or base of our chest or something. And as we breathe in, there's an upwelling feeling of this. And then as we exhale, perhaps there's a feeling of it flowing all back down again and flowing out. This flow and flow happening of this pleasure, this energetics, this lightness. They can be quite subtle when it begins happening, and it's good to recognize it and realize, this is actually a good thing to pay attention to. Don't look for it when it's not there. Don't try to manufacture it, and don't feel like you have to have it. This 5th step and 6th step of Anapanasati, it's only sometimes it begins to happening. The core practice is the first 4, and this is so beneficial just to stay in the first 4 for a long time. In a sense, the longer we stay with the 4, the stronger foundation we allow ourselves to have for what follows. But unless you learn about this potential for joy and pleasure as part of the meditation practice, then you might not appreciate it when it happens. You might not recognize it when it happens, and then you won't kind of include that or become whole with that. Let that spread and open and receive it through your body. And all this requires some modicum of a quiet mind. It doesn't have to be completely quiet. There can be some thoughts in the background or light thoughts. So don't be at war with your thoughts and think you have to not think at all. That just produces tension. But there is a quieting that happens as we practice. So mindfulness of breathing, and I hope that you'll have some opportunities through the day and through meditation to appreciate and value and enjoy your self-breathing. Thank you very much.